All right, everybody, welcome to the Blue Collar Gospel Hour. My name is Dan Denton. I'm your host. We're here in Not a Duck in Indy Row Studios, a West Toledo studio, and I'm with my good friends and fellow co-hosts for the night, Mike McCoy.
Hello, how you guys doing tonight?
Hey, look at that, Mike. You got some lines going. We're good there. And my new friend, Gene.
Hello, thank you for having me.
It's nice to meet you, Gene. And my new friend, David.
Hello.
Hey, we all got some moves on the computer thing. It's called a DAW. I still don't remember what that means. Audio workstation or something, but oh well. It's good to have music friends that teach me stuff. So so we're just hanging out here on a Friday night. My friend Mike had knew Gene and David, and Mike wants to be kind of get into podcasting a little bit, and he said, hey, we should have some of these people over, and they have been very good Friday night company.
Well, thank you.
So
Thank you.
Well, when Dan asked me I'm looking for cool and interesting guests, I was like, to be honest, you guys are one of the top 5 people that I picked.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
yeah, that's actually you might have been the first.
Yeah, I think I did mention them.
I remember it
because
gets a little fuzzy.
Teresa came about after I noticed that she mentioned you, Libby, on Facebook.
Oh, that's right.
So they were number 1.
That's right.
So that
And he
was,
found out Teresa and my wife were friends.
So that's
And all
how
of
she
a sudden
became a
it
guest
touched off.
first.
Hey, Teresa was coming over, and I'm like, all right.
So technically, you guys were number 1 on my list.
Well, that's great for me then.
See?
So, and as I always tell everyone, anybody that comes recommended from McCoy here is, you can expect interesting people. He might be the only person I know that's known more interesting people than me.
I just been around kind of like a WAP, like the young kids would say. Wet ass paper, not what
I don't
everybody
know
was
if
thinking.
you're using that term correctly, McCoy.
Probably not. I'm old and balding, not shaved. No, there's balding up here. Yeah, for sure.
I noticed you got kind of a half moon going.
Yeah, this is cool though.
It's you'd be right in the middle of
I
the
got a
wax
full
and wane.
moon, so.
But you're styling it though. You're styling it.
You and I aren't close enough friends yet that I can say that yet, Gene. and to be honest, I owe McCoy a couple jabs.
Well, that he does. So, but anyway, what made Gene interesting for me was I did a couple firsts for me. I went and seen the show business and of what he does, which was real interesting. I'll let him describe and talk about all that. And when I worked at the hospital, my mom knew him. We all worked together, and he was one of the very first people that I met in there that kind of took us under the wing because when we worked out there, it was a different type of atmosphere, especially for me coming from where I came from, which was the inner city. And Gene was always real cool with me, so I always kind of looked up to that. So it was always real neat.
Yeah?
Yep.
Is that what taught you how to be kind of an asshole to me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I figured if I rough on you, that way when you come home, it makes everything so much nicer.
I'm not sure I understand your logic, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, me neither, but that's the secret of it. It's kind of like a real good riddle.
That's sometimes you say things that make no sense, McCoy.
Yep, that's what makes me me.
So you first met Gene because he was just a good person.
Yeah, he was a super cool dude at the hospital, and I mean, when we worked there and the jobs that we had, I mean, my job was stressful, but it was cool. And Gene was down. At the time, I think you were the boss of cafeteria.
I was
right?
the supervisor of the cafeteria there, yeah.
So I mean, you always got taught treat the guy who's going to deal with your food real cool. And Gene, you didn't even have to.
Hey, can I ask you a question that I don't want you to get in trouble from your previous employer? But knowing him and being his friend, did you ever get like a free slice of pie or something from the cafeteria?
Always.
Because that would be
man.
a cool friend to have, man.
Heck yeah, plus I worked with a guy named Big
being
John.
the
I
kind
had
of
to go
recreational
first.
guys we are, getting a free slice of pie now and again will.
When I started there, I was probably like $1.45. I left there at $2.60. So if that tells you anything. But that was what was cool, though. You go down there, and it was, because we worked there. We worked long hours, and, I mean, breakfast, lunch, and sometimes dinner was always provided by Gene and his staff. And Gene kept them always in line, and they were always real friendly.
Yeah.
And that was what was real cool, and, I mean, especially in there.
You know, one of the things I've noticed, and Gene and probably David volunteered at the same hospital.
Yep.
One of the things I've noticed from knowing Mike and meeting some of his circle of friends from that place where he worked at for a long time, and it sounds like a lot of people have been there for years, is that it seems like a pretty fun environment to have worked in.
It was like a family environment. Everyone got along. We knew each other on a first name basis. We all worked well together, and it was just a great time and a great place to work at that time.
Especially with all the stress and everything. I mean,
Yeah.
we worked there during the bird flu, swine flu,
Yep.
all kinds of weird shit. I mean, we would go into places. I mean, Gene, you wouldn't think about it because in food service, but just like me, transportation, we were having to go in rooms dressed up like spacesuits
Yeah.
to go in there. But they only always talk about
I feel
doctors and nurses.
Right.
I feel like that'd be kind of an adventure for you, though, McCoy.
Oh, dude, it was wild because we go in there and I mean, we made the best. I believe we made them patients enjoy every bit of it.
What?
Just like when these guys would come up, you know what I mean? Because like I said, they're dealing with the food. I mean, who don't like the person dropping off that extra slice? You know what I mean?
So, just to get a little background to get rolling here, Gene, you're originally from West Virginia?
Yes, I'm from a very, very little small town called Jerry, West Virginia. It's spelled Jere. It was a very unincorporated town. When I was small, it had what we called a general store. And basically, there was a butcher shop, a post office, a grocery store, and there at the end, you could buy anything from flooring to whatever else you wanted in it. So that was a kind of little small town that I grew up in.
Okay. And David, you're from Toledo?
I'm from Toledo.
Okay, so you've been around for a lot of Toledo history.
When I was younger, when I was like 10 years old, we moved to Grand Rapids, Ohio.
Okay, so did you guys meet in Toledo?
Yes, I actually took a job. I lost my job in West Virginia. I took a job with a contract food service company. They sent me up here to Toledo, and I actually went to work at NODC, which is Northwest Ohio Developmental Center, and that's where I met David. And we worked together for 2 years before we even started dating, so, yep.
Let me ask a question. If I get too personal, give me the stop sign. Who asked who out?
He was chasing after me. David was chasing after me.
He thought.
And no, I know.
He thought.
I was actually working in the kitchen, and I cut my finger, and I went to the restroom to wash my finger and get a Band-Aid on it. He come running into the bathroom behind me.
Oh,
yeah,
Captain Save a guy here. Here we are.
He thought.
Can I help
He
you?
thought.
no.
He thought.
And then he went home one day, and I was still at work. I had to work late that day, and he come back in, and I'm like, "What'd you come back in for?" "Oh, I forgot my
wallet."
keys." It's like, yeah, you came back to see
Heard
me.
that one before, didn't we?
That's kind of a classic move, David. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a
did
very
too.
gentleman, kind of old school.
Now, how long have you guys been together then?
We've been together for 25 years.
25.
Wow.
Legally married for 6.
Really?
Yes.
Mike, me and you were in high school then.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I first met David was one of the Christmas functions at work because we would always
Right.
people would be allowed to bring in their families and come in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean that was the kind of place we worked at. You know what I mean? It was one of them type of
Yeah.
gigs.
My family doctor belongs to that hospital group, and it's kind of been a really nice. He used to belong at ProMedica, and now he's there, and it's kind of been a nice transition as a patient, actually, So I get to benefit from a little bit of that still.
And
Thank
then-
goodness it's not owned by the giant corporate ProMedica still.
No, now it's a bigger. Now it's a big place too, from out of state or out of city or something.
McLaren?
or something like
Yeah,
that.
well, hopefully it stays
It's
kind of
something.
family oriented. It seems to
Really.
be so far, but
Now, how long have you been gone from there?
For 6 or 7
Yeah,
years.
so you left right after me, because I've been gone
Yeah.
7 years in July. Yeah, we used to have a good time though, man. I mean, it was
Yeah.
fun. It was a
have
good
you
time.
have you always worked in the food service industry or the food service business?
Yeah, actually,
I guess that'd be a level of hospitality, kind of.
yeah,
I don't know.
when I graduated from high school, I worked in a glass factory for 2 years.
Really?
And basically in West Virginia, if you weren't in the coal mines, you were in the glass factory.
Okay.
So I was in the glass factory. I didn't like it. I worked there 2 years. I went back to college, quit there, went back to college,
Where'd you go to college at?
West Virginia University.
Okay, Mountaineers.
Yep. Was there for 2 years, then went part-time, and
So you went to? Did you quit the factory then go to school or?
yes,
Okay.
and worked at Hill's Department Store.
Okay.
Old school
I remember
Hills.
Hills.
Yeah.
Hell yeah,
Yeah.
old school Hills.
And now they're gone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Now, what was it? Well,
So basically, I met a guy. We started dating. I moved in with him. I didn't have a job. He had like a catering business on the side. So I started catering with him. And through that experience of catering, I got a job in food service at a hospital down there.
I was just gonna say. Now, what was it like being gay down in a place like Jerry, West Virginia?
Well, that's
I mean,
why.
in 25 years ago would have been. I mean, you've been gay forever. I mean, it ain't like you just wake up and roll over like, oh, guess what? I'm gay today. So I
Are you
mean,
sure
but
that's
growing
not how
up,
it works, Mike?
oh, I'm pretty sure. But I mean, but growing up down there, I mean, it ain't like
Right.
you would probably run into. You know what I mean? Like,
Coming,
No,
coming out of a holler, you know?
yeah. I mean, what was that like? I mean, you know what I mean?
Well, I
growing
didn't
up?
want to accept my own sexuality. So probably from my teen years until I was 24, I basically lived a lie and dated women.
So you dated women?
Yeah. And then once me and my girlfriend was having issues, so she went out with her friends, and I'm like, okay, who am I going to go out with then? So I called an old buddy up from high school, which wasn't sure if he was gay, but I kind of figured he was. And he said, well, let me call you back. So he called me back and he goes, well, we're going to a gay bar. And I'd never been to a gay bar, didn't even know there was one existed in Morgantown.
So wait, this is in Morgantown, West Virginia.
West Virginia.
What, if you don't mind saying, what year would this have been?
That would have been 83, 84.
During the Reagan years
Yes,
in Morgantown, West Virginia.
in Morgantown, West Virginia.
And you went to your first gay bar.
Yes, and it was out, I can't even remember the name of the little town, but it was a backwoods town, and got there, and we went into the front door, and there was a sign at the front door. It said, can't remember what it said. It said, beware gay crossing or something. And I thought it was just something that they put up in the bar. Well, here it was town folk that actually put it out in the street.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the bar owner went out and got it off the street and brought it inside.
into the place.
Right, so that's how, I mean,
That's
it was
hard.
a scary time, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say back then. I mean,
You didn't
there was
talk
no
about it.
acceptance.
No.
No,
It wasn't like you could go and hey.
yeah, it said, it said caution, gay crossing, that's exactly what it
So a
said.
lot of the men or women, was it both or was it all mainly men?
No, actually, the owner of the bar was a woman. She was a lesbian, but she was married to a man.
Nice, McCoy.
She was a lesbian, but she was married to a man, and they owned the bar together. And she had a girlfriend, and he accepted that she was gay. And so it was kind of a strange situation at that time, but
Yeah, because I mean, I just think of the 80s, you know what I mean, it would have been, everything would have just been clammed up. Like you couldn't, I would just imagine.
Right.
'Cause it, especially
Right.
down there.
Yeah,
Because even up here now, I mean, you got young men and women who are still afraid to come out.
Right.
I could just imagine how strong you had to be.
Yeah, and like, my dad, he's passed already, but I don't think to my knowledge, he didn't know that I was gay. Because I never told him. To my knowledge, none of my family did.
So like, that's what I was,
Yeah.
so that kind of,
Until they met me.
yeah, I was just going to say, so how did, I'm assuming, when you come out, or was it kind of like, did you bring David
I didn't
down
really
and-
come out. It was just, I lived my life, I moved in with another guy. We just said we were roommates, but I never came out and said, oh, we're having sex. Or,
Right.
That's
Yeah,
my
I mean,
lover.
you
it
wouldn't
just-
think you'd have to, but now,
No.
people just automatically would expect you to say some weird shit. You know what I mean? Like, this is what you had to explain yourself, and I don't understand why you would have to
Why-
explain
Right.
yourself.
Yeah.
But
So back then, we were just roommates,
Yeah.
lived together.
Okay. So let me transition to a minute for David. David, you had a career. So you met Gene through work.
Through work.
And what did you do there?
I started out as a hospital aide,
Okay.
ended up as a store clerk, and that's how we met.
Yeah,
Okay.
he actually ordered the food for my department, my food service department.
Okay.
So we had to work together to do the order,
Did he ever order an extra slice of pie occasionally?
always.
All right. Man, that's a good hookup. Then. Maybe I'm doing capitalism wrong. I'm supposed to go for the money people, not the food people. I must be doing it wrong. One of the things I've kind of already noticed that I kind of find interesting is you both kind of had or have like kind of service-oriented careers where you're kind of of service to other people, which is kind of neat. I'm
who's the better
noticing.
cook?
David is.
I do all the cooking.
You're the cook?
I'm the cook. He works, I cook. I clean.
Okay.
I'm a good cook when it comes to feeding hundreds. He's a good cook when it comes to feeding.
He does
A
bulk.
family.
Right.
He does bulk. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, and you think maybe that's because you're retired?
I
also,
think
David,
that's
or-
what it is, yeah.
Okay. So you're kind of, you have done some volunteer work at the
Yes,
hospital.
Yes.
What do you do there as a volunteer?
I work at the outpatient.
Outpatient? Okay.
Outpatient. I take people to surgery and
Okay.
other places that goes through the hospital.
Okay, let me ask you this. What makes you want to do something like that as a retired? Like, what makes you want to
Volunteer.
spend your time to go to a hospital, drive somewhere?
I've always done that. I started doing that kind of stuff after I got out of the military.
Okay, so you were in the military?
Yes.
What branch of the military were you in?
Army.
You were in the Army?
Yes.
Thank you for your service.
I got into this business because of my sister being cerebral palsy.
Okay.
And so I worked for United Cerebral Palsy. And then from there, they folded, and I went to Northwest Ohio Developmental Center and worked there 30 years.
Okay. And that's where you met Gene?
That's where I met Gene.
Okay. So,
I read up on Gene.
so maybe you weren't chasing, you were reading up.
There it is. Now it's coming out. Now, ain't it?
All right, so maybe there's some truth to what Gene was saying after all.
Yeah.
Okay.
He knew all about me before I even
Before you even moved there.
Ah.
He knew you were going to cut yourself sooner or later.
Yeah.
He's like, yep, he's clumsy. He'll be
That,
mine.
That's kind of let me ask you this, David. So when you say read up on him, one of the things I've noticed, like when I met my wife, like I'm kind of a little bit awkward, a little bit like I stumble or I'll stutter,
Little bit?
or, I'm not a smooth operator, right?
You're not lying.
So like I gotta kind of know, like I'll read her Facebook a lot before her birthday and kind of try to figure out what to get her for her birthday. And I figure like that's the only way I can get ahead in the game because I'm not very smooth. Like, is that, like when you read up on him, like why was you, like is there something about him that interested you that made you want to like,
I just wanted to see who was coming,
okay.
who's going to be the next.
So originally it was like to learn about your new coworker.
Yes.
Okay. So that's your story and you're sticking to it.
That's my story.
All
And
right. Hey, it's a blue collar gospel hour on a Friday night. It's the gospel as we see it.
Yeah.
So you, and like once again, if I get anywhere too personal, give me the stop sign. So you mentioned that you were a male dancer.
Right.
So it sounds maybe like you had kind of an interesting
Younger
coming
years.
of age, coming out, kind of.
Coming out, coming of age.
Okay, so how did that?
There was a group of us that we danced together.
Okay,
So it,
like a group of friends from school or like
it was
college,
just a group of guys that hung around each other, and we went around dancing at different places, and I end up in New York.
New York City, the Big Apple.
Oh, you did them like that. You're a big dancer.
We moved around, yeah.
Oh, wow. Check that out. You had
I
fun.
started out at Arthur Murray's
Okay,
as a dancer. So that's how I met most of the guys that we went out to dance.
Now, what is that? What was that? I don't know what that is.
It's a dancing studio. It's Arthur Murray Dancing Studio. It was on Sylvania Avenue.
Oh, okay.
so you've got some stories. You've seen some things.
I've seen some things. I've had some stories.
Okay. Have you ever thought about writing a book?
I did.
Okay.
Not now.
That's one of the things that I'm just as a writer and I like to talk to interesting people, so we'll start a podcast, and one of the things I'd love to learn how to do is to like make documentaries, like make like little like hour-long documentaries and like interview people like David and Gene and even McCoy and just do like an hour documentary about those stories just to like. Because I feel like we need to capture those things, like that's the part about American history I want my children to know about.
The real stuff.
Yeah,
Real
like
life people. You know what I mean?
I can't tell you how many people I've told the story about the Stonewall riots to, when the drag queens fought off the cops in New York City, like kind of when Pride was starting to form, and like just every time I read about that or I like see a little like documentary about it. Like, that's one time in history I wish I could have been there just to watch, just to be a part of.
Stonewall?
The Stonewall riots happened in Brooklyn, New York City, near the Village, I believe.
Right.
The Village is a legendary, like, kind of artist.
Were you down there in your heels, Gene?
No, that was
that's-
before
No, this would have been the
me.
Oh, shit.
60s,
It was
early
the-
60s,
yeah,
I
it's way
think.
before you.
I was in New York in the 70s.
Ooh, so you were there not too long after that. Okay, yeah, so the Village, it was kind of like a bohemian, artsy
place, yep.
theater type, pretty
54
accepting.
Club, the 54 Club.
Studio 54, like on
Yeah.
TV. You been in that? Mm-hmm. Really? Mm-hmm. Like on the old school, like the real shit they made the movie out of? Oh, we got to talk about that for a tad
It's
bit.
been years.
Just a tad bit. I'm sure you can remember a little bit.
Have
Like,
you,
was it like in the movies? Like, I mean, like the real shit, like people hanging from the ceilings and the whole,
And swinging on the. Yeah,
like that?
Ah, get down.
was there a lot
That's
of
cool as
cocaine?
hell.
It might have been more 80s.
that's more in the 80s. That's
Yeah.
more pot than there was.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
like
still
the
a
weed.
cool time to be around there. Before it got
That would have been
before it-
crazy,
Before it
though.
took a right turn.
Gay, straight, even sideways type of person. That would have been a
The
cool ass
pot,
place to be,
pot
you
and
know?
opium and
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, that would have been nice.
Talking about a good time. So the Stonewall riots, there was a gay club, drag. I mean, it was just kind of open and tolerant, and gay people would go there and meet. It was safe. Well, of course, the cops would go harass them all the time.
Yeah,
And
they would rate them.
Yeah, they would
They
rate
didn't
them.
like anybody having a good
So
time.
one of the things
Cops
that
are-
They
cops
like
are
gay
cops
people,
then,
so-
Yes.
they didn't get escorted. They were pulled out.
one of the things that we don't learn in high school history class is that most states have had laws that basically made it illegal to be homosexual. Texas, I think, was the most recent, might have been one of the most recent ones to change their laws. And even though they didn't always enforce it, it was a law that was still in the books. But basically, they would make laws where they could harass these establishments. So finally, at one point, they came in and this, I don't know, if you read the history books, it was dozens of drag queens and, of course, all the other people at the club had had enough. And the cops came and they started throwing beer bottles and rocks back
Get
at
them.
them.
Uh-oh.
And then at some point, this went on for like 3 or 4 days, or several days, where they were lighting trash cans on fire and throwing them at the cop cars, using sticks and rocks to kind of like harass the cops, getting tear gassed, kind of like some of the things that.
You're seeing now.
So anyway, in my mind, I just can't imagine with my anti-conformist kind of like personality, how beautiful of an art scene that would be. Like I'm thinking like like a dance musical of these like angry drag queens just beating the crap out of the cops. Like I don't know if that exists, but we need to make that musical because that would be just cool. You know?
I think I got a couple
Flicking our
actors who
heels.
could play portray it.
That would be a great.
That would be
Call
a
it
cool
Flicking
one.
Our Heels. That's brilliant.
You think you
Write
could
that
make
down,
that happen,
McCoy.
Gene? We could
Sure, we
could
can.
have Joe. We could have Joe figure it out.
Right.
You could get some of the actors,
Yep.
actresses.
And so yeah. Well, and let me make a note to get back to talking about him being in the movie because we'll get there eventually. Or hell, we could talk about it now. You were in a movie.
Yes.
What's the name of the movie?
See you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday. How do we see this movie? Is there a way to watch it?
Well, it was released at the Ohio Theater.
Yes.
It was released at the Ohio Theater.
In Columbus or in
on LaGrange.
LaGrange? The
LaGrange.
classic. Okay.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Basically, Joe Vogt, he was the producer and film and editor and everything.
And
so
Ian-
he's the only one that could actually give you access to seeing the movie.
Okay.
He did give me a copy, so we do view it with friends
Yeah.
and family. But as far as marketing or anything, I can't do that.
So this is a gentleman that I've asked McCoy to let know that I'd be highly interested as hosting, as having as a guest on the show and in the studio.
Yes. And the one thing about the movie, we started filming and we were halfway through the film and a friend of Joe's was
Were using
allowing
their
us
house.
access to his home.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he ended up passing away very suddenly and unexpectedly.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to stop filming at his house. So Joe was about ready to just drop the whole film itself because he didn't know where to go from there. But then his wife talked him in to keep going, and he kind of rewrote the last part of the movie. So it's kind of broken up a little bit, but it's still a great movie. And it's scary. It's like a horror, but it's comedy. It's just a
So
great.
what was your character in the movie?
I was called Mother, and I was a bitch of a mother, and I basically beat my child and abused her.
So you played a mother,
Yes.
which leads me into this. I mean, this is like you're just lobbing it up. You both have been. I have no idea how to be a podcast host, but you are making this really easy, which
thank
leads me to this. So you have a show performance persona.
Yes. I started drag once I moved up here and I met David, and we were going to gay bars, and we enjoyed drag shows. And I just told David, I said, I'd like to try that one time. And he goes, well, go ahead. And
Can I give him a fist bump real quick?
Sure.
Way to be a supportive partner, Dan.
And I started it and tell him what I was like, David, when I first started.
He's like a school teacher.
Yeah.
A school teacher.
I had to take him home and I said, we got to change.
Was he a little subdued? A little.
Very subdued.
very-
I wore skirts
That's
down
gotta
past
be-
my knees. And
So,
Really?
yeah.
Full confession.
We got pictures.
Early times.
Oh, yeah.
The beginning.
At home.
So let me
The
ask.
beginning.
Let me ask you, and once again, if I'm too personal, stop me. Has there ever been a moment where Gene's been performing where you've gotten a little jealous by any attention?
No. No.
That is wonderful, trusting, and so supportive, man.
He's going home with me.
Yep.
That, okay.
And I wouldn't be performing in drag if he wasn't with me to help me.
And see,
I just
that's.
wouldn't.
I try to
Yeah,
explain
because all
to
the shows
people-
I've been at, he's
Yeah, he's
I'm
there.
That's
He's
what
the
he was saying.
bodyguard,
supporting me. No,
the
he's not the
dresser.
bodyguard.
The dresser, the
I
everything.
stand there and watch what he does. And when we get home, I says, we got to
Yeah,
change
he
this.
makes changes.
Ugh.
He helps
can
me
crit-
get dressed. He
I do
styles
his
my
wigs.
wigs.
Now I was
No
just gonna, now
wonder.
who makes like when do you guys make your own outfits and stuff? Or?
I've made some
He's,
of my
um,
outfits.
Yeah.
Do you remember Kim Hammer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
She's done some of his costumes.
She's made
Really?
some of my outfits.
I do remember Kim.
Yes. And
I didn't know that she did that.
Yeah.
I learned how to do my makeup. It took years.
Yeah.
And I'm still not the greatest, but I do a good job.
Yeah.
So
So
Well,
I
that's
take
what I
care
was going to
of
ask. So I did dress up in a Halloween costume once as a hula girl. I wore a grass skirt and this water-filled bra that had seahorses
a
swimming in
bearded
it.
hula girl.
Yes, I didn't shave. I didn't
Okay.
shave my legs. Didn't put makeup
That's
on.
in right now.
Is there a word for
Bearded
that?
drag.
Is it, what is
Bearded
that?
Greg
Well,
is in.
now it's called bearded drag. When I first started, it was called skag drag.
Because there's an
Skag.
because watching that
Drag.
Burt
I feel like I gotta
Kreischer,
put that
watching
in the
that
phone.
comedian
Let
show.
me write that phrase down.
I think he called himself a bear. That's what they called the thing was
Oh, yeah.
bears. They were big dudes.
Oh,
that they were-
bears are big
Oh, yeah.
dudes with hairy chests. Yeah,
Yeah, because
love
I was
that.
gonna
that
say
are
there's
gay.
nicknames for everything,
Everything,
for everybody,
yeah.
right? I
Yeah,
mean,
so I've got over the years somehow developed a lot of interesting friends, and I have a lot of I'll call them queens, not for lack or whatever. They're queens, and they'll be like, "Oh, you're a bear," and I'm like, "Stop it!" Like I'm just Dan. Like stop, like quit trying to make me uncomfortable,
Right.
Well, they're impressing. That's what they do when they say that to you. They're not
Yeah.
putting you down or
No,
making
no.
fun of you or nothing like that.
No, and
No, I'm
that's-
just saying that's
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out too. Yeah. So the other time, I was in a talent show, and somehow I was going to be one of the backup dancers for like a Tina Turner talent, whatever lip sync thing. I don't know. Like I just get involved and do stuff. I don't intend to.
You got into it.
Yeah, I'm not. No, I did
Yeah,
not.
you did.
Well, so they tried to do the makeup for the stage because they had spotlights. This was like a big
Yeah, that's
300
what brings
person
it out.
attendance. So I ended up basically in drag with these, fake chest and all this and a mini skirt, but I only had lipstick on. Once again, I didn't shave, but they tried to do the eye makeup, and I just can't do it. I can't keep my eye open to do the little pencil thing, so I just ended up with some stuff to make me not shine in lipstick. That was it.
how long does it take when you do your makeup stuff? Like to get go from Gina to the Gina Arnett to go from Jean to Gina that I've seen perform. How long is
If
that?
it's from
Start-
when I start,
When he
Yep.
first started,
I have to shave my whole body. So
Oh shit! Oh, well, I guess
Yeah.
you would because you're wearing skimpy
It's
stuff.
not- just
basically
makeup.
about 3 hours. Yeah.
So you are dedicated to your craft.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I've seen him perform.
So Mike and I have both seen you perform. Obviously David has also,
Right.
but that was so. Just a little backstory. Mike told me, "Hey, I know this Gene. He would be a really interesting episode for the podcast because Mike and I are pretty close friends." And I'm like, "Oh, Gene, yeah." He's like, "No." He's like, "Dan, he does this." I'm like, "Wait a minute." And he showed me a picture. I'm like, "I've seen him perform."
That's what he told me too. I said, I know him.
And that was, I got to show off a little bit, from, not that I'm like a student of drag, but I have been going to drag shows for 25 years or so.
but nothing's wrong with that.
Not at
Nothing.
all.
Nothing's wrong.
Matter of fact, I wish I had more time to devote to that.
I
But
enjoyed myself. I just never had. Gene
Some of
was
the most
the
fun I've ever
first.
had in my life.
Gene was the first person that I knew who was gay. That actually I knew that was. And the first show that I went to was Gene's. Because from where I'm from, that wasn't something that people
You
came
do.
out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And ever since when me and Crystal went down to, was that little
Madison Bistro.
Madison Bistro. When we went down there, and then me and Bucky went.
Yep.
I've always had fun, man. They were
Yeah.
always a good ass time. You know what I mean? And to me,
I was
that's
just
what.
going to say, if you haven't been to a drag
That's
show,
where
you need to go.
And
'cause
what
you'll
it-
have great fun.
And and you know what? Nowadays, what I think, because that's been 10 years or so since I've probably been there. What is, because I had that question written down, is being gay now easier than being gay? Of course, not in the 70s or 80s, but like in the 90s or early 2000s. I mean, just the finding jobs, being able to be open in public. Because you two can be open now compared to probably in 2000 when I don't know if you could
Well,
be as
that's the
much.
same way when we got married. We went to Maryland.
I remember when
Yeah.
you guys did that.
We
It
went to
wasn't-
Maryland.
It wasn't legal in the
Here.
entire United States.
And it wasn't
so
legal in West Virginia.
So how long ago was that marriage?
6 years.
So you've been married for 6 years. That's what
Yeah.
you said.
Legally married, so it was legal in
Legally.
Maryland.
Do you celebrate
Yes.
that as your wedding anniversary then?
We celebrate both.
Yeah, we celebrate our first date together,
Mm-hmm.
which was November 11th.
Ooh,
Yeah,
it's
so
coming up.
It's coming up.
Let me
96.
ask you this: how do you celebrate? If I'm not too personal, how do you celebrate your
96.
anniversary? What's a typical
Usually-
pre-pandemic?
go out to dinner and
I get him roses. I get him a card.
years
Mr.
ago we
Romance
used to go
over
out
there.
and get drunk, but we don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
We used to go
We're
out
past
When you're
those
Used to go
married,
out.
see what happens when you're married?
Yeah.
I know.
Gene, would you say David's kind of a classic romantic?
Oh yeah.
He seems like it was
He
the cards and the
never
roses.
he never
and-
forgets an anniversary, a birthday, any date.
Man,
Did he
I
forget
might-
what tomorrow is?
David, I might need a.
Probably.
So I've been married 3 times.
I got
And
reminded.
I might need a relationship coach. Like I might need somebody to remind me, Dan, don't forget the anniversary. Dan, don't forget the.
Just put it on the calendar.
I got a calendar, but yeah,
So now how many are they personas or what stage names how many have you done or do you do now? Or you just
Well, I
Gina?
go by the stage name of Gina Arnaz, and that was basically David made that up from
I love that
my
he laughs sometimes when you give an answer.
right. My real name is Eugene, but they call me Gene. My middle name is Arlen. So we were trying to come up with the stage name, and he said Gina, and then we were trying to play off the word Arlen, and he goes Arnaz.
Oh,
So
yeah?
that's how my stage name came up. And personas, I mean, my best and the most people most like is when I do Liza Minnelli.
Minnelli. That's the one I've,
Yeah.
I've seen.
It's
And
a
they call
classic
him
Liza.
Liza.
Yeah, that's the one
With
I've
the
always.
chair, the short hair. Oh,
Yeah.
it's classic.
Yeah, and I basically went and looked back at her old movies
And
he'd
he'd done it over and
Yeah, I-
over and
I
over to
practiced
make
in
it
my
perfect.
basement.
So is that
So
your
how many hours
favorite?
do you think have you invested like practicing?
He doesn't
I-
practice in front of me.
Yeah, I
No?
won't practice in front of David. Not my movements. My lip sync, I practice like anytime I get a new song, I practice lip sync. Because I think that's one of the things that drag queens really need down to an art is being able to lip sync a song.
Yeah.
Because
And be
if
that
you can't
person.
lip sync,
Yeah.
you're not believable.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you want
Um,
to look like that and
Yeah.
sound, and you want to make that sound look like it's
coming from you.
Right.
What's like the best or like most fun show you've ever been a part of? Or some of the fun like
I think the most fun was when I was performing at Uptown Bowling Green. It was a college town. It was a mixed crowd, and it was packed every Saturday night. And,
Caesar's was good. Caesar's
I
was a
mean,
good
they would
one
just
too.
lay down on the floor, tipping you with bills in their mouths.
oh yeah.
Yeah, and you had to
Good times.
Yeah, you had to get on
Yeah,
your knees or something to get
Right.
the dollar bills from them. It was a great time.
Now, do you like being Gina? Not saying more than Gene, but like when you're up there, like you know what I mean? Because do you get to be more? Feel like you get to be more yourself?
Well, I always tell people that's where my persona comes from. I think is all the years in my young that I tried to hide my feminine side, and now I can let it out, and that's the way I let it out. Because I still find myself trying to hide my feminine side while I'm at work or out in public.
Now, when like does your new work know about Gina?
Actually, I think the first week
This is
my
cool. This
my
is cool.
boss, we were in her office and she was talking to me and she goes, "Well, just tell me a little bit about yourself, not
What you don't know.
regarding your work life." And I told her, and she said, "Oh, that's cool." She goes, "I had someone else that I went and saw a drag show from,"
Really?
so she was cool with it. So
Good. Let me ask you, David. So when I was asking him about his favorite show, you were talking about Caesars. So what would have been your favorite kind of places or performances or?
Well, mine was Caesar's, and then the one it closed down,
Brett's.
Brett's. I
Brett's.
used to dance in there.
Now, what about
You
since
used
you've
to
been
dance
all
at
over?
Brett's? As a male dancer?
Yep.
And then at the same time,
No, we were.
Oh.
that was before I came.
Now, since you've been
Okay.
all over, where was your favorite place to be a dancer? Like
New York.
New York City?
New York. The Bronx.
Yeah.
so where
The
did you
Bronx.
dance in
See,
New York?
And see, the Bronx.
They
what
had
kind
a they had a Caesar's in New York too.
And see, for me, like again, because I'm naive to Gene's the only one that the only gay person I really know and get to hang out. When you say the Bronx, I always think of rap and all the stuff that I.
Yeah, that'd be more 80s and.
Yeah, but that's what I'm just guessing.
Mine's 70s.
The 70s.
Yes.
And I'm just.
So you're
trying
more
to-
disco.
Yes.
Oh, that's
And
fun times.
And at that time, my hair was down,
You had long hair.
long hair.
Do you have photos?
Not of that long hair.
Not
He
that-
has it
I
down
have-
to here.
down to here.
I remember
we
the
met.
days of my own long hair, like
I
Fabio.
was Mike and I actually. Mike's like 6 months older than I. We were born the same year, graduated the same
And
year.
I'm also about 6 inches taller than he is.
He's
also.
not. And I was going to talk about his IQ, but I'll love it. Look at him. We
Get
both got
out
a
of here!
face
Just
for
because he
radio.
reads books without pictures, he thinks he's smarter.
He really is kind of like a brother, even though he's an asshole. I forgot why I was calling you an asshole. Why was I picking on you now?
Just because you always do.
Shit, I don't know.
New York
Who knows?
City.
I love New York City.
We were talking New York City with
Yeah.
Dave. So New York City. So the Bronx.
The Bronx.
So what made what was it like? I'm just.
Scary.
Was it?
It was very scary at that time.
Now were you out in that time?
No, I wasn't out yet.
No.
So that would have been after you were in the Army?
Yes.
Were you in any conflict or war?
No.
Okay. Good.
No.
Not that. Yeah, good.
I was medical discharged because I have an enlarged heart.
Wow.
Maybe that's why you liked him so much, Gene.
Oh, man, you took it right from me. Nice. You took it from me.
So what year did you come out roughly? Or
Mine was more 75.
so that had to have been a spooky time too.
You don't just talk about everything.
No, I just
Now ask me anything.
because
I know.
you just see in movies back when I'm saying that's where all my knowledge comes from is movies, which half of it that means that's how naive I am on it. I would not have wanted to come out, and that's why I think so many people, men and
You
women,
just had
would have
to,
held it in.
You
for
had to
so
watch
long.
what you say to people. You don't know what they're going to do.
I look at my hindsight, though. All my neighborhood friends that I've reconnected with lately,
They probably knew.
they knew.
Yeah.
But the-
Yeah,
It's
you
like-
know, because
You
they
know,
didn't
it's
want to.
like, so if you knew, what was I scared about? It's
They were
That's
probably
crazy.
more scared of
Scared
hurting
we-
your feelings and saying something.
right.
That's if I could just throw in a plug for being a radical socialist now and again. The one thing that irritates me the most about America is I feel like we're all forced to pretend sometimes.
Right.
And like we all kind of know there's like a corporate underside to our government, and like that the boogeyman is not real. Like we all kind of know that, but we all pretend, and that kind of irritates me.
That's why I bought a pair of skinny jeans, was just to pretend that I'll fit
That's
in
going a
them
little
and
too far.
blame them that
That's
they're
going a little
skinny
too far.
jeans.
Hey, what I was going to say about me and you being born in the same year, like brothers, I always think, like I was born in 78, in the 70s. And I think the 70s, that's one of my favorite decades to read about. Like there's a lot of like artsy tackiness to it of the 70s. Is that kind of true? That's like my perception anyway.
Yeah, I say it is.
Yeah.
I just think being in New York City in the 70s and 80s would have been fucking wild. You know what I mean? Like,
I had the long hair, and I'm walking down the street to my show. I had it in a ponytail. Somebody come by and just cut it right off.
No shit.
serious business.
Serious business. I went home 3 days later.
Yeah.
Came back to Toledo? Yeah.
Yeah, you would have been devastated. It's
I
like,
said,
you grew
know how
that
long
shit.
that took me?
Yeah.
So how did your parents react, David, when...
My mom loved whoever I was, but she did not approve of it. But she didn't put me down for it.
Yeah.
My dad didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
If he had to work on his car, he'd come to my house and work in the driveway.
Yeah. Okay.
Just whatever, huh? Like,
So you mentioned, Gene, religion played a part in your childhood.
Yeah, my dad never went to church that I recall. My mom, she didn't go to church, I don't think, because she didn't want to have arguments with my dad, but she was religious. I actually started going to church probably when I was 8 or 9. Basically, my aunt had asked me to go, and I basically stayed in church until I was about 16, 17, and it was a big part of my life at that time.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was a Pentecostal religion, and I mean, I don't adhere to their beliefs anymore,
Right.
you know, but, you know, they have their beliefs, and I'll let them have theirs, and I'll have mine, so.
Did that cause any turmoil, like when you first like accepted who you were more, or
Oh, I had a hard
like
time.
any guilt, kind of? Or?
Right, I had a hard time accepting that I was gay. I mean, number one, I didn't know that there was other gay people out there. I felt I was the only person, at least in my area. And
We just got some ice delivered to the studio. Got to keep our guests' drinks flowing. and,
hydrated.
hydrated. That's a good.
Whoop.
Oh,
You're throwing ice cubes at me.
it's an informal Friday night here.
A whole different way we tip around here.
Well, you know, I kind of, God, I'm not a good host yet. I'm learning how to be a podcast host and how to like get the ice cube trays in time to freeze for the guests to have good drinks.
But anyway, it was really hard to accept my sexuality because I had grown up in a religion that you were told that it was wrong. And, you know, I didn't want to feel guilty for the way I felt. And I mean, as long as I can remember, I was always attracted to other men. So,
Was your first boyfriend then in West Virginia?
yes.
That was the guy that you had.
Yeah, we
The
actually were
Caution
together.
Gates Crossing.
We actually were together for 10 years, my first, well, I mean,
Right.
back
right.
then you had one night stands.
Right, yeah, that's
You
what
know-
well, yeah, because you didn't meet
Right.
a bunch of them. I mean, it wasn't like you met guys everywhere who were probably
Right.
gay. You know what I mean? When you met one,
You did, you just didn't always know it.
yeah, well, that's what I'm
Yeah.
That's what I
saying.
always tell people. Not that I know anything about shit, but
But we were together for 10 years, and it was, you know, there was a big difference because there was he was 20 years older than me. So there was a big difference in our interest. And so
Dave's a tad bit older than you
I've
now.
always went for the older guys. Yeah,
I'm 10 years older than him.
he's
Yeah.
10 years older than me.
Gene, I've always dated older women.
Yeah, so.
Hopefully my wife
I don't
doesn't
know.
throw her shoes
I've
at
just
me.
been attracted to them. I think it's their maturity, and you know, I was looking for someone mature. I didn't like kids that
So now
played
that
games.
it's more out and everything's a little bit more gay friendly, or I guess that's the right word.
Yep.
Would you guys be more inclined to have a big type renew vow type thing? Maybe Big John do your ceremony type stuff, or is that
Well,
in the
when
works?
we got married, we went to Maryland because it was a state close to where I lived when I was younger, and we went and stayed with my sister, so we would be close to where we'd be going to get married. We went and got married. My mom came to the wedding,
His ma came. His ma came.
and
That's big.
my two sisters came and my brother-in-law. We didn't invite the whole family. We just invited those that basically knew that I was gay and accepted it. So, because there's a lot of my family that are religious.
Yeah,
and-
nobody
don't
would want
accept it.
Uncle Earl there, who's a
Right.
dickhead, who's going to be like, "This just ain't right." You know what I mean? Nobody
Yeah.
wants that guy.
Yeah. So,
So let me ask you this, Gene. At what moment, like, did you like kind of like become just like free of that? Have you ever? I mean, is there a moment where you're like, you know, I am who I am, and you just kind of find like some freedom with it, or?
it's still evolving. It's like, you know, there's situations I'm put in and I feel really free, and there's other situations where I feel like I need to keep.
You got to feel restrained.
Right.
And see, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody should feel that, and you know what I mean? And not at all. And that's what's fucked up. As the guy says, that's fucked
But the
up.
world has changed a lot. I mean,
It has.
like
That's
It has.
a friend of mine that I worked with, Jackie Chrisman,
Oh, yeah. Yep, I know Jackie.
her grandson, he's gay. He came out when he was 10, 11.
12 years old.
12 years old. It's
Incredible.
like, it was
we
amazing to
couldn't
me
do
because
that.
Right.
I didn't even think about doing that at that age. You know,
Right.
I was denying it, and he's a full out and
Yeah,
accepting
you're
it.
at that time probably thinking you're weird because, like, why am I
Right.
feeling like this?
Yeah.
Because no one else around.
Exactly.
It wasn't on TV.
No.
You know, like now they got actors who are, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Back then, like you said, you felt like an outcast probably. Like, why am I?
I had
They
this.
did back then too. They just
Yeah.
didn't tell anybody.
Well, yeah, I mean,
That's-
but that's just it though.
Yeah.
That's the same way where I worked. They asked me, this girl comes up, what role do you play? I said, what? What role do you play? I said, depends what mood I'm in.
You should have said loving husband. Classic romantic.
what mood I'm in.
That's, yeah.
That's like the stupidest question to ask somebody.
Yeah, what role?
That's like me asking you, what do you do in
And
your
that-
bedroom?
Well, shit, I'll tell you what, the way my
I'll
wife
be
treats
honest with
me,
you, That's the
I
least
think I'm the one getting fucked a lot of times.
interesting.
by
I
my
don't know if
wife.
it's the least interesting thing, but I gotta.
I'd rather know who's the better cook. That way
Yeah.
I can ask them when I come over.
I want to
like,
hear about
"Hey,
the cards
who's
and
cooking?"
roses. That's
You know, now I know when I come over who cooked.
Yeah.
Because if Gene's like, well, I had to whip something up, I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah, you might not like it.
Yeah, if Dave's like, oh, don't worry, I got you. I'm
gonna
like,
taste like hospital food.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, here we go.
It sounds
Tastes
about like
Arnold
you're
Eggs.
ready to fund a new wedding for him.
Well, no, I was just curious because, you know, now, and, you know, you could have whatever
What,
you wanted and you wouldn't
what
have
year
to feel
did you
so
get married?
restrained.
2014,
What day?
April 21st.
So 4/21/14.
Yes.
My wife and I got married 1/17/15 by Elvis in Las Vegas.
Cool.
Both of our third wet marriage, by the way.
You guys could get married by
Which
me
is-
or Big John.
So
Well,
we-
see,
Both of us.
I was going to say,
We should have a- we could do a double
after we got
rip.
married, we came back to Toledo, and he actually,
Yeah, didn't he do a thing?
yeah,
We did our wedding in
we,
our
We did
backyard.
our wedding vows,
right.
and he did
With
it in our
friends and-
backyard.
With
Excellent.
family and
we-
friends.
So
We
you had two
invited our
weddings
friends
then.
and
Good.
family.
Yeah,
Yep.
family and
Good.
friends.
I feel like if it's going to be like a lasting love thing, you might as well have as many parties with it as you can. Celebrate it as much as possible, you know. So you know that you mentioned, Mike, about asking if is it easier to be more open. Is it easier to be more, you know, to be gay now than it was whatever in the 70s? And one of that leads me to something that I try to remind myself of because you know in 2020, you know I have some mental health struggles. And 2020 hasn't been kind to him. And 2020 hasn't been kind to a lot of things. And it's been a weird year, and it's been tough for a lot of people, and all of us. It seems like there's always, like everyday normal situations are a little bit tougher in 2020, every day. But one of the things I try to remind myself, because I always got to have hope, I learned that from Harvey Milk, by the way, who's become a hero of mine. My 9-year-old daughter and I bought a sticker, that Harvey Milk sticker, and she's supposed to be planning where to put it in the studio, by the way, because it's important to me my kids kind of learn to be tolerant, you know. Anyway, exposed to the things I wasn't exposed to growing up as a Pentecostal G. Right. But one of the things I got to remind myself of, and I'm sorry that I ramble a lot.
Oh, you're fine.
But in 1996 and 7, when I helped start a LGBT support group at a community college in Redneckville, Illinois, not on purpose, just because a friend of mine came out and he asked me to help him. It wasn't like I was like trying to be a virtuous like anything. It just seemed like the right thing to do. Anyway, then I never dreamed that gay marriage would be legal in 1997. I never dreamed that would have happened.
I never did.
Like it wasn't even on the radar. I don't even know that I thought about it.
And see, and like I said, once again, someone like me, I don't think it would, to me, it was like, but I could only imagine the big deal that it became.
The feeling.
Yeah.
It's all the
you know,
feeling in
and
it.
that's-
It's like,
Yeah,
That's
To
goes
just be
back to that
accepted for who-
privilege
yeah.
of someone like myself who never would have thought, who take advantage of it. You know what I mean? We've been married 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Not me, I've only been married once, but when you got two people, because I remember me and you had a conversation one time before you guys got married on why it was important. Because if something happened,
Right.
there was a lot of things that
Yeah,
you
I
couldn't get.
Right. I could be denied going in to see him if he's in
Right.
the hospital.
And that was when
You
I
know,
remember
it's-
that conversation always stuck to me because where I was from, we never thought about it.
Right. And I couldn't be on his insurance. He couldn't be on my insurance.
And yet, and at that time, you guys were together for
Yeah, we
back
were
then, I mean, it was
together
like 20 years back then.
19 years we were together before we got married.
Yeah, so you figure it's
So-
been
It's
about
like
then.
it's like our taxes. We do them together.
Right, now we
Yeah.
do.
Our taxes
But
together
before
now.
we had to do them separate.
And-
So we didn't
and-
get all the tax breaks.
And I think a lot of people that didn't know about things like that, that was just why they didn't care. You know, not
Right.
that they didn't care.
Yeah,
They were
well,
just
I
naive
think that's
to
why
it.
it's
It was
important
just,
to talk about. It's important for me that I hear these stories
Right.
because it helps me evolve to be a better human being.
oh, 100%.
You know.
That's what I enjoyed about
Well,
when
see,
I.
we were both fortunate because we both had jobs that we had our own insurance. So,
Yeah.
but you know, some people
But if you
don't have
weren't, right.
insurance.
And I could imagine being a gay couple for so long, you guys knew numerous couples who either
yeah.
were together for a long time and did get fucked that way.
Right.
Because something happened to one of the other.
Correct.
That's one of the things that I guess bothers me about American history is that we don't teach people about that. We don't teach people about in the 70s, if you were with somebody for 20 years, you couldn't go away with them when they got cancer.
But you can't, with that, you just can't use that in history now. Using our, it's not history to anybody out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
To
that's
us,
what-
that's history.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
To you guys it is. And that's what
Yeah.
and that's what I think a lot of what you could almost classify it as like a minority when or you know what I mean, because that was how they treated them.
Right.
You know what I mean? They didn't think you didn't get rights. Like, oh my God. Because I remember watching an Oprah thing when I was a little kid about a gay guy who swam in the pool. And it still to this day, it still bugged me because they drained the pool.
Craig Louganis?
No, it was in this pool in the community.
Oh,
You- you-
because that was probably during the AIDS epidemic.
it might have been.
Yeah,
And he was sitting.
he had AIDS.
I was
these
actually going to
people
see
were
if you
standing
guys
up.
would talk about that a little, just because I feel like that's important too.
Well, I feel very fortunate that I'm still alive because
I am too.
Especially in New York City.
You know,
Ah,
that was early 80s and I was kind of
Reckless?
loud and reckless and was
I mean, I just-
having a lot of one night stands and
And see, and that's what when that dude talked about that on the Oprah thing. I mean, I was a little kid, and I'm 42 years old now. I YouTubed it before we came here because that was like, I wonder if it's on there.
Right.
And they drained the damn pool.
right.
And I think of so that tells me the shit someone would have had to went through. Like you guys,
Right.
if you didn't come out and someone found out that you didn't want the what you would have to go through.
Right.
To now, I mean, even though the kids get outed on the internet with the phones and stuff, but I just couldn't imagine them draining a pool nowadays because somebody was swimming in it in my apartment complex. That's gay. You know what I mean? I would
Right.
just, being a straight guy, I would come down there and laugh at him. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? I want to go swimming. I don't care who's in the water.
Yeah,
But
I feel
back
like we've
then-
been talking long enough too. I need to point out to my guests, if we get to a point where we're tired or we're ready to like wind up or take a break, let me know.
Alrighty.
Okay. Like I don't follow rules very well anyway, so I don't like to make them. So, plus, if you like build a studio in your basement, you can do whatever you want, you know.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, I could only fathom in the 80s and early 90s growing up. I mean, going through that with the AIDS and
Right. It was a
Had to been
very
scary.
scary time.
I mean, we think of
And-
the coronavirus. I mean, you guys probably had friends who were, you know.
Well,
what
I
I mean?
had an encounter with somebody and they told me afterwards that they were positive. And it's like, really? You didn't tell me before?
Oh, how nervous did you
Yeah.
have to be?
Yeah. So I'm very lucky that I'm still alive and I'm healthy and I'm HIV negative. So,
Yeah, it's because that's you're blessed.
yep.
So that's just how shit is. I've been blessed with this body. Dad Bod Show.
so Mike wants to start a podcast eventually when he finds time, and call it the Dad Bod Podcast. And we've talked about getting a group of some of our coworkers and union brothers together and doing a Dad Bod calendar every year. We just haven't picked a charity yet to benefit from it. But that's kind of I don't know if you would call that the creative brainstorms we have. I don't know if that's creative or a brainstorm.
you know,
I don't
either
know.
way.
Together, we qualify to have a brainstorm together.
No, it'd be more like a brain trickle.
We just
Not
chop
a
it up.
storm,
We
yeah.
chop it up. That's so. Let me ask you this: just because I may come off as a tough and rough kind of Midwestern middle-aged guy, factory worker, but I get a little sentimental now and again. So, what kind of advice would you give for couples for longevity, for how to keep like love enduring? And I don't know if that's kind of an off topic or weird.
No, I just think it's a give and take. It's like if you're not willing to give a
Give
little
or-
bit, then your relationship's not going to last.
It seems like you
know.
both are very trusting, very,
I mean, we've had our,
It's-
our
it's-
bad times,
Yeah, but our good
but
times.
you got to
it's
weather
just-
through them. It's like,
We're not perfect.
we know we're going to go home and sleep in the same bed together. So,
yeah.
No matter what,
and-
when we go to bed, we kiss and say
we
goodnight.
kiss and say we love each other, and every night.
So
It's
you're
not-
saying it's not a complicated.
No.
I mean, you just have to give and take, and everybody's got their flaws, and you got to live with them and work through them.
Yeah. I always, maybe that's why my wife and I, our third marriage kind of works. Because we do, like I always tell her, like no matter how mad or how manic or crazy we are today, we always wind up in the same bed at night. We always
Right.
kiss each other, goodbye in the morning. And
Yep.
no matter how dysfunctional we are other ways,
I have a
you know,
sister. I have a sister who's been married 8 times.
8 times.
8 times.
That is incredible. That's is that more than Elizabeth Taylor?
Might be equal to.
I might be equal.
Equal to that?
I'm going,
I guess I can understand being married 3 times how it could happen,
but 8
sorta. But I don't know if I have the energy.
of 8.
Maybe that's why we.
I said, count on your fingers. You only got 2 more fingers. She said, I can go to my toes.
That's a lot of wedding rings to collect.
I told my homecoming date that one time.
What'd you say?
I asked her if she could go to her toes.
Welcome to the Dad Bod Future Podcast. There.
So back to all this fun that was happening in the 80s. How much fun was I'm Club Studio 54. I'm still back to that. I mean, think about it, dude.
I don't even-
That's a class. That's like one of the things that's a historical.
It's
Yeah,
something.
it's very
Yeah.
They made a movie about it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that had to have been, like you said, one of
I
the
couldn't be in the movie. Shit.
was it one of the coolest places to
It
be?
was
Did you
one
see
of the
Movie
cla-
Stars?
Yes.
I mean, not to like get anybody in trouble, but any like super famous ones?
Yeah, you've seen Kirk Douglas. You've seen Burt Reynolds. You've seen singers.
Dude, how crazy is that? You know what I mean? Just to be in the, I mean, nowadays,
Yeah.
if you're in the same, because see, back
So
then
did
they
you-
would go in
did
there
you
and
dance
party by
there?
themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Now they're in there with, bodyguards and entourages. I mean, how cool
Oh,
is
they
that?
stand there like they're bodyguards, And some of the singers get up and push them out of the way, like Diana Ross.
Really?
I'm trying to think of the other
Diana
ones.
fucking Ross. Dave was in the same joint as Diana fucking Ross. How cool is that?
Hey,
you ever been
I-
in somewhere where Diana
hey.
Ross is in? No.
So if I was if that
But
had
you've
happened
been in
to
some
me,
places with someone who looked like Diana Ross, or at
Oh,
least
yeah.
dressed like them. I just thought of that.
that's nice.
Thank you, thank you.
So let me ask you this, Gene. I'm a poet and I do a lot of poetry readings and stuff. So what you do as a drag queen is definitely a form of art.
Yes.
Definitely something you work at, you practice, you're dedicated to.
Yes.
So when you're performing, are there nights or are there events when you can just kind of feel like it's on, and it's like how does that feel? How does that feel if you're in the middle of like what you would consider like a good show? How does that feel?
I feel like I have a very close connection to the audience, and they're into what I'm doing, and I'm actually enjoying their entertainment, knowing that I'm putting a smile on their face or that they're enjoying what I'm doing. That's what gives me the joy to do.
Like when they're singing the same song that
Right.
you're singing.
Or they're tipping me, or they're dancing.
They're dancing
Right.
with him, and
They come up and hug me. They come up to kiss me, and it's like, or they're just like in awe. I mean, I've seen people in awe, like when I'm doing Liza, and it's like, I can't believe I'm seeing Liza. It's like,
No, yeah.
Now, have you ever done, like, once again, I don't know any big name drag queens. Have you worked with any big name drag queens?
Do you know Twyla Star?
I don't know anybody but
Oh, okay.
Gina Arnez
Oh,
and some big
Coco
tall black girl that
Vega.
was
I
named
do.
Asia.
have
do
you ever
know
heard of
Twyla
Coco
Star.
Vega?
She
I
does.
think I've heard of
Twyla
her.
She does Vegas shows.
She's in Vegas now.
Really?
And she was at, what's the name of it? Divas Las Vegas. She
Okay.
was on the Strip.
Really? So that's
Yeah.
big time.
That's big time.
Speaking of which,
And now she's with Hamburger Mary's in Las Vegas, and she's the show director for Hamburger Mary's.
So is like working for Hamburger Mary's, would that be like working for, since it's a big chain of drag queen restaurants, would that be like working for the Hooters?
No.
Or, I mean, what would it be like? I mean, what is, I've never even been there. I've been wanting to go. I don't even know if it's open right now because of Corona.
It's
Well,
open.
Do they have shows still?
Yeah,
they
it's
do?
a family-friendly
It's a
restaurant.
family. You bring your
Yeah,
kids.
check it out.
You
I
bring
take
your
my kids
kids.
to Hooters.
Right.
You can bring your
My
kids
son.
there.
What's the
and
difference?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'd take mine.
They got to watch. They got to watch their
Yeah.
language and stuff and how they present themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
They usually always, like when I would go to your guys' shows, even at the,
It got pretty nasty sometimes.
towards the later in the night they did.
Even for a guy that tries to be open like me, I get a little uncomfortable now and again. I'm like, whoa, every now and again.
I didn't mind it.
No, I don't.
So do you like now, since speaking of Corona, I mean, if we talked earlier a little bit, it's affected you. I mean, you haven't been able to do any shows, right?
Right. The only bar in Toledo that I know that's still doing shows, besides Hamburger Mary's, is George's.
On Adams.
Georgie's on Adams
Down the
Street.
street from Brett's used to
And
Right.
they do theirs outside. So it's an
Outdoor one.
Uh-huh.
And is like kind of like we were talking earlier, back to being more acceptance. Is that because nowadays that more people are accepting to it, you don't have to have certain bars that are just strictly gay bars? Now there's just, you can go to any
it's
bar.
just gay people are more comfortable going to straight bars and hanging out with straight people than what they used
when
to
they
be.
used to.
be. And now they have their
And-
cell phones and they can call and meet anybody anyway.
Right.
Right. And their friends are more, they have more straight friends than, I mean, my friends, whenever I was younger and going out to the bars, they were all gay
Right.
because I didn't,
'Cause you didn't want
I didn't go
everybody-
to
Right.
straight.
You couldn't be out and tell everybody.
Right. So it's a completely different world.
Yeah, and see that's what's that. And
It's better.
Right. Oh, I could imagine. I could only, and that's what makes it cool
Well,
nowadays.
and that was my whole
The
point.
tolerance
is
that we have compared to then.
But the other thing you have to look at is the safety because, you see a lot of transgender people getting killed. And it's because they feel comfortable in a straight bar.
No.
And they're not really safe.
Right now, so
So
like
we're kind of losing our gay, safe places.
so that was another
that's a
thing.
valid point, by the way,
Yeah.
that we don't hear enough about in mainstream
Right.
media is how unfortunately common violence against transgender people is.
They brought it up last night at the
Yeah.
thing,
the town hall.
whatever it was.
Good.
He said 17, but the mom who was talking said
Yeah,
it was
she had
more
a
than that.
transgender.
Yeah.
So because to me, once again, I don't know at all. Bruce Jenner is transgender,
Transgender.
but he's not gay. Or
It's not
is-
transsexual. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or is he? I mean, I don't know. I don't to be for more or less for to cross dress is different than that because he's had
Well,
surgery,
cross-dressers is different than transgender.
Gender.
right? Because
It's
they
the-
live it 24/7.
Cross-dressers just like to dress as a woman for whatever reason.
Right.
It's like
Transgender, from my understanding, is that you feel like you were born the opposite sex.
And that's what I
than
was
you
getting
should
at.
have
So
been.
you just like the opposite sex. You don't feel
Right.
like the opposite sex.
No.
See, and that was the
that's what
scientific part I was
But that's
getting at,
with
I guess,
him.
if-
He's a female impersonator. He's not a drag queen.
Right.
I don't.
A drag
So
queen.
that was the other thing I was going to ask. What's the difference of a drag queen or a female impersonator? Because to me, when I see a man in women's outfit, they're a
Well,
drag
they call
queen.
me a drag queen, but to the persona to me of a drag queen, they're very flamboyant.
They're the ones who do their makeup real bang and
Yeah,
mean, it makes it-
flamboyant and
Eyelashes out
you go as an
really loud and
because you dress up like the character.
well,
you're
character.
and I'm more subdued.
imitating, right? I
Yeah.
gotcha. Now that you mention that, now I see the total difference. The drag queen is someone who's wearing that, hey, look at me, bang.
Right.
I want to be noticed.
Right.
And I'm more subdued.
Right. The RuPaul would be a drag queen.
Right.
Big difference. Now I never would have That's why I like
Hey, Mike.
learning stuff.
Let me ask you a question.
Shoot.
So, as a guy, well, it sounds like pork chops coming down the stairs. That's the mascot for the studio, our special needs pit bull that we adopted.
Looking for
I
Dad.
said special needs.
He's got anxiety, I mean no harm when I say that, But so one of the things, as a devil's advocate, I guess would be the right word, or always trying to push people to expand their boundaries, because I know. One of the things that anybody that's different from me, if I befriend them, it always challenges my boundaries. That's what I love about it. So, has anybody ever asked you, as a straight man, why you wear the tennis shoes you wear?
No, probably because I like to.
Has anybody ever asked you why you wear the hats you wear?
Well, they know because I like to cover up this bald spot.
So why would you ask somebody why they wear women's clothes?
Why?
Yeah.
'Cause
Why would it matter?
Because I'm curious. I would ask somebody why they wear a certain kind of pair
So
of shoes.
someday I hope I live in a world where we just don't it just don't matter. Is that
Don't, but
wrong?
I'm curious on everything.
I'm just fucking with you, man.
But no, I would be curious on anything.
When he first came to Toledo, do you remember he used to wear a hairpiece?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, when he worked at the hospital.
One day he comes up to me and says, I'm going to stop wearing it. Stop wearing it.
Yeah. I remember, that was,
When he first started.
yeah, because, shit, that had to have been, you probably quit wearing that. I started the hospital in 97.
98.
Yeah, I was going to say a year or two after I started.
David, when you met Gene,
I
did he
should
have
wear
a
one.
West Virginia accent?
No.
No?
I've never had.
No.
I've been told you don't have a West Virginia accent. You have a New York accent. I'm like, I've
That's what
never
they
been
say.
to New York.
That's what they say to me.
Never been?
Did
say
we
to
have
me,
an Ohio
you guys
accent?
travel together any?
We love to travel. We've been on
cruises.
cruises,
No. What's your favorite trip?
Caribbean.
Caribbean.
Job money to go. That's Jamaica. Never mind.
Are
Wrong
you guys
place.
you guys Margaret Reader drinkers, or
I am.
At the time,
at the time? Yeah.
Yeah,
I could
love
see you drinking
margaritas.
margaritas, Gene.
Yeah.
we got on a party boat, and boy, did we party.
Yeah, that's a good time. The
Okay.
Mexican party boat, if you ever go to Cozumel. Real good time.
Hey, I'm
That
all
might
about
be
the
a
good
whole.
time.
That might be a whole another 15
Well, I was thinking
segment by
earlier
itself.
you were talking about some of the big names that you performed with.
Yes.
I have been to Vegas several times. It's one of my favorite places in America, and I have never been to a drag show in Vegas. And I feel like I should put that on my bucket
You
list.
should. I mean, that's outrageous.
Go to Hamburger
I mean,
Mary's or go to Divas Las Vegas.
We need to. So
In
someday I'm
Las
going to buy like
Vegas.
a laptop where I can bring the microphones and travel and do stuff. We should maybe do like an episode of the Blue Collar Gospel Hour, like in Vegas,
I would love to do
like
it.
on a trip or something.
So,
Yeah.
maybe we could
rating-
probably write it off our taxes.
rating the Toledo performers. I mean, is that what the drag queen / impersonators is? Are they're performers? I mean, they're
Right.
doing what they're doing.
There's some good
I was
performers.
just going to say the ones at Hamburger Mary's. Are they? I mean, like,
They're
are they the
very
kind
good.
that go all over the place? I'm thinking of. Like, once again, this is me. I'm thinking of like when I would go to the strip club, when the strip club would have certain, hey, tonight is Gina
go to-
Arnaz from.
Yeah, they're
you know
still
what I
the
mean, from
same
Las
kind of
Vegas.
networking.
So they
you
go
know.
all over the place too. They
Yeah, some of them stay here.
local.
Yeah. I mean, I've performed in Detroit. I performed in
Sandusky.
Indiana,
Sandusky.
West Virginia, Cleveland. So I've performed all over
the place?
this tri-state area. So
Now, how many like before COVID would you do them weekly, monthly?
well, since I usually work a full-time job and I like to have weekends off, I would usually like do maybe 2 a month. 'Cause
But he still gets called. I mean,
Right.
not still.
Oh,
not
yeah, I
now,
know.
But would get called to see if he could do a show.
Right.
right.
Yeah. If I get too personal, Gene, tell me. I don't know why I keep throwing that precaution up there. I don't want my guests to be uncomfortable.
I'm not.
You
But
should get some padding for this damn chair.
You have well, we are going to eventually someday hopefully make a little money at whatever the fuck we're trying to do here. Sorry for my language, but I'd like to order like matching like executive looking chairs, you know, whatever.
I threw him off
These are
already.
Facebook Marketplace chairs, in case you're wondering. Anyway, you have a very attractive figure. Do you work hard at maintaining that, or is that something that's natural to you, or is that something you think about? Mike and I definitely would be on the.
Little thick
We're
end.
stretching it when we call ourselves dad bods because we're beyond that. Both. Let's be honest, Mike.
Anything we're around, we're
factory-
stretching. Trust me.
Well,
Is
I'm
David gonna
kind
answer
of
this?
naturally thin. I don't know. I guess I have good hormones.
There's
or whatever.
padding involved.
Yeah, I mean, to get my shape, I put hip pads. I make hip pads and put those on.
You make those yourself?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Now you can buy them online, but I make my own.
Cheaper.
So, I mean, yeah, that's to give me the feminine
See,
hourglass look. But as far as my weight, I've been naturally thin most of my life. Here lately, I've been gaining some pounds, and I mean, I try to watch. You know, I was up to 185. Now I think I'm down to 170. I try to stay under 175.
Have you ever thought about impersonating anyone else? Like in your dream, like, you know what, I bet I'd be good at
Well,
doing
I
this
want to
person or-
really do a Tina Turner, which I haven't tried.
Oh, I'd come watch that.
Would you do the real fast doing this thing?
Yeah.
So there's a speaking of local talent, and I'm sorry for being ADHD. There's a young lady or a lady that performs African American that I've seen jump off a stage and land in the splits.
That would be London,
London,
Asia.
Asia.
That's who I seen at your one place.
Absolutely stunning, incredible. I don't even know how that's possible.
Yeah.
She knows
How much
just
training that had to require.
how to fall and stay
It's
out
amazing.
of
And
It's amazing.
Looked like it
you
hurt.
won't believe
the. It looked like it hurt
her
Yeah,
father
he-
was a performer too.
herself.
No kidding.
Yes.
She did that. She was at the show, and I seen
Yes.
Jean
Yeah.
And
perform.
her mother was one of my biggest fans and came to my shows all the time.
Without,
So,
without.
Yeah, me and London are really good friends.
What is it like to have like a loyal like fan? Like
He used to have a following.
Yeah,
Anywhere
it-
he
Oh,
went.
my mom was one of them. There was like a
Yeah.
group of the women, and they were loyal too because none of them would say anything to. They would.
Yeah.
My mom would always just tell us that she was going to see her friend from work perform. I knew what she meant, but she wouldn't say who.
that's good.
You know
That's
what I
a good
mean?
friend,
Well,
yeah.
because that's what
Back
sucks because
then.
back then, especially at the hospital, that place, the way it was, they
Well,
might have looked back on
right.
it because they were a small.
It could be political.
You know what I'm saying? I could
It's
see him
like-
doing that.
It's like he's had a show over there in Hamburger Mary's in February. There was volunteer women that wanted to see him perform. There was 10 of them that went and watched him perform.
And these are all, I'm assuming, older ladies, older,
ladies,
women.
yeah.
Because that's the and you know you just and amazingly you would think because those women they were even back in those days they were oppressed. You know, I mean, even if they were straight or gay, women in
Right.
general back then they were stuck to you're cleaning, you're cooking.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that's,
even if they had a friend who was like that and their husband found out, they wouldn't be allowed to hang
And,
out.
and
with
a
them.
lot of
Right.
these volunteer women were pastoral.
So yeah, they definitely they just blew their
Look
mind.
how old they were.
Right.
So you have involuntarily been an educator and a liberator, Gene. You're kind of like a modern Midwestern superhero. You know that?
A pioneer.
Have you ever considered that? Have you considered writing a book, Gene?
No.
I've never in my life wanted to be a ghostwriter. I don't even know if I could, but I know enough writers. We could probably help you get a book together.
Really?
That would,
It would be
uh,
interesting. Think about that.
That would be
Pictures, too.
definitely.
Yeah.
Like I know
Pictures.
even in
Now
one
I would be able to
episode,
read it.
There's stories I haven't heard yet that I'd be fascinated by.
Right.
You know, that's
Yep.
that's one of the things I kind of. The older I get, you know, I've had a kind of, let's just say a bohemian life. I've also lived in 7 states, and you know, I've been around. One of the things the older I get, the more I appreciate is having like a friend like Mike, because even after all these years, every once in a while he'll do something, and I'll be like, "Wait a minute, you used to do that?" Like you'll learn something new,
Right.
You know, and that's kind of like, kind of neat to have those relationships that you know.
Yeah, he didn't know I was a model before this either.
When was that?
Oh, it was previous lifetime.
That
That was with the lady who read my hand.
Last Saturday night, he had a couple beers too many and fell asleep in the chair and
Dreamt
dreamed.
about that.
You were a model, you said?
Yeah, in my own dream.
Oh, I was a model at LaSalle's downtown.
Really?
Uh-huh.
What did you model?
Men's clothes.
Like suits and
Yeah.
Do you have pictures of you in a suit? I bet that would be a dapper.
I don't know.
I don't think Gene's confident in
At the
disbelief.
dinner. The only time I had a suit on was at that dinner.
On the cruise.
So now back,
On the
so when
cruise.
you guys first met, because you guys didn't know each other, did you guys know you were gay when you first, I mean, like, you know what I mean? How, did you know? You knew he was gay?
Yeah.
I didn't know he was. I had a suspicion, and the only reason I thought maybe was because he had earrings in both
And
ears.
see, because I'm,
That doesn't
I
matter.
remember-
now see, I'm
I
thinking,
remember
because
when
to
that was a
myself,
thing.
I'm thinking by just hearing the way Dave's putting himself off,
Right.
that you were probably easy with the ladies too if you wanted to be.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
had girlfriends.
You know what I'm saying?
Did you date women?
Yeah.
Okay.
Women still love him. They're
Yeah.
like, oh
Why
my
wouldn't
God,
they?
I love your hair, and they're touching all
And
Well,
over.
I wouldn't believe when, I'm not going to say your age, but I
This
wouldn't
is
believe
not
the
a
age
lie.
you
When I
told
saw
me,
your
you
profile
know?
picture of him holding the flag, and I was like, man, I can't wait to make
And what
meet
gets
David
me
too.
is
Like that was,
it's the black women.
They be liking that, huh? They want
Oh
themselves a
my-
little
they gotta
snow bunny,
touch
don't they? They want a snow bunny. Yeah.
do you get a sense of pride watching him perform?
Oh,
Is there
yeah.
like a sense of like
Oh, yeah. And if I see something that he could do better, I would tell him about that.
that. So as a writer, my wife's also a writer. That's the benefit. She is the best editor I've ever met. And
I
that
think
is-
he's more excited and
I like to watch other people
about me
watch
than I am
him.
myself.
Ooh, that's
I like to
like-
see the
Right.
impressions on their
Yeah.
faces and see
Sometimes
what
I
they're
don't
taking
feel
from
like
it.
I've done a great job. And go, oh, you did fine. I'm
So
like,
you- Kind of like
What a-
tonight when you didn't want to hear yourself talk.
Right.
So you probably have, I'm sure someone's videotaped you. Have you watched yourself?
oh yeah.
Do you enjoy watching yourself? No.
I
We
hate
got tapes. I mean, Joe Vogue has come into.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
He's come in and watched and does shows of what he's done.
Joe would be the one I would have do the documentary. Who would be their video
we got to
videographer.
meet him, man. And that's one of the things that's important to me too is to work with other artists in my community
Right.
and be supportive and inclusive and tolerant. And one of the things I thought of, do you think that David, your background as a dancer has helped be a critic?
I
or
do.
be like I don't want to say critic because that sounds like he's critical of you, and he's obviously not. As a
can be.
feedback, it can be.
Well, I'm sure that's what makes you better too.
Right,
Because if he sugarcoated it, as my one friend that I work with,
I'm gonna
says,
tell him the truth. I mean, I'm not
if
gonna
he
say, "Oh, you do
sugarcoats your
good."
ass
I
with
mean, you're
cookies
gonna
and
know.
sprinkles, you ain't gonna be able to
Right.
know what the
I
real
think Libby
faults
and I are
are.
going to really enjoy being friends with you guys, just so you know.
Well, thank
that's, I don't know if we should wrap up or not. I'm kind of feeling like we're going for a while, or I don't know.
I got work in the morning.
I do too. Not that that's ever stopped me.
You know, the
from
good
saying
thing
that.
about wrapping up in sections like this is the part two.
I was hoping eventually we would get an opportunity to hang out and
Yeah,
Because
we can do
because
that.
it feels to me like we sat
Yeah.
around and talked like a group of friends would, where we scratched 50 different things.
Right.
Instead of like we didn't really sit and talk about the entertainment showbiz end of like I have no idea because I'm that guy of the Dan's been around enough of the artsy fartsy world
Dan's a little
to
crazy.
know all of that. He brings that. He's got them, and my end is the one who's just like, I don't know nothing. I have a lot of the questions that, you know what I mean. Nobody would know on just the entertainment end of it as itself, not just being as an impersonator, but just the entertainment. Because I've seen the shows. There's a
Right.
lot of work that goes into that shit.
Oh yeah.
It's not just like if I would go do an open mic for stand up or if Dan did his poetry, even though he sat and did the writing, you got to practice. You got to do your makeup.
Oh yeah.
Okay, let me
your
ask this.
hair.
What is the dressing room like at a big show?
Dirty.
They
Like
don't.
not swept up clean kind of, or just kind of
Well,
like kind of vulgar,
it's
or
most of the. I
Those are
mean,
men. Are they
you got to
men
think
still?
you're in a bar, and
It's clean upstairs.
most of the time you're either in a basement or you're in a back room closet somewhere. And
So it's
where,
not big on lounges and green rooms for.
No.
It's like, it's,
By the way, not that I didn't give you the full tour because the basement's a mess, but we're eventually going to have a green room lounge on the other side over
already.
here. So
Yeah, but most of the time it's like, the drag queens come in, they put their makeup on,
everything's
they
all over.
perform. By the end of the night, they're tipsy and they want to go home, and they pack up their stuff, and
Push
the
it in.
makeup's left there.
Are drag
So
queens
it's
divas?
just-
yeah.
If someone don't come clean it up, yeah, it's gonna be.
Who's the bigger diva, drag queens or impersonators?
I'm a diva.
Are you a diva?
They call me a bitch.
Have you seen?
Gene,
have you seen
bitch,
Liza?
Gene.
Have you seen Liza? Liza's got a little attitude.
There's a few
Yeah.
of them.
I can't see that though. 'Cause
That's
you're-
kind of the
when-
thing that makes Liza
Yeah,
So what-
fascinating. Is
Sometimes I don't feel like I fit in that well because everybody thinks I'm a
So
bitch.
what makes
But
so-
I'm not a bitch. I'm just quiet and
They-
reserved.
So what makes Gina? So you're putting on the heels, you're getting the makeup on. Is it when you put that wig on, does it click?
I make him Gina.
You make him Gina. So when you put that final mark on, he just clicks
I'm,
into.
I'm just thinking this has to be done. His
Bitch,
hair
this
has
is
to be
it.
in place.
You know what I mean? Is that
He
how-
does do my wigs and he does a great job. And you're not done. The wig's the last thing you put on.
So once that clicks, you're
Yeah,
in
once
there.
your hair is on,
So do you
you're-
know then once that wig is on and once he's Gina?
When I do that, I go, now look in the mirror and see what you think.
Yeah.
And then if I have to move something,
and then do you step
and then
back
I move
because
something.
now?
He's like, "Why do you always do that?" I'm like, "I'm
Gotta
a drag
mess it
So
up.
queen."
once you're Gina, who's boss?
We're both bosses.
Not boss, but no, I know that. But like because now you're the star, right? You're the star of the show now. Do you have to take not a step back, but kind of like this is my Gina? You know what I mean? Because that's how I'm just thinking like
Yeah,
I
we
would-
just work together. And so
you're both the stars because to
Yeah.
you you're the one up
and
there
I mean,
doing it, and he's
like
the artist.
in the dressing room. He's not only helping me; he's helping.
I was just
going to
ask you, do
I
you
was
help
gonna ask you.
others?
I help
Yeah.
everybody.
David got kind of animated when I asked about the dressing room environment. Sounds like you had a couple stories or some feedback.
There-
on
You're
it.
the den mom, like the
Oh yeah,
the-
he's back there zipping.
I have a shirt that
everybody
says
or-
Drag Daddy.
Yeah.
drag
Daddy.
daddy. I like
incredible.
that. So how'd you? How does? Because when you say you dance, but you never were an entertainer that end, drag or impersonator.
Not an impersonator or drag or nothing.
How'd you
like
get
that.
into makeup and stuff like that to do
He does
this?
his own makeup.
No, I do my own.
You do the
makeup.
makeup.
I don't do
He
the
just
makeup.
does my hair.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And
styles
his,
my
and his
wig.
costume.
He's a stylist of the.
The stylist.
But, yeah.
Could you do my hair?
Easy.
Yeah, no shit. I can do mine with a rough.
And
With
they're
a,
learning.
mine
They're
can-
learning you're an easy target now.
Yeah,
and
my
again,
shit
Mike.
could be done with a rough
Or
sponge.
he's known you a lot longer than I have, actually.
Mine could be rubbed with a rough sponge, or just do the air scissors with
Yeah.
your finger, and I'm trimming my shit out. Yeah, I
That,
think
uh,
I think like I said, I'm glad that you guys got to come over, and I'd like to do part two. It's up to Dan. It's
Absolutely.
Blue Collar Gospel Hour.
Hey, you know what? I'll be honest with you. Like, I love that I have a podcast and I get to put this out there into the world. And at some point, hopefully 10 years from now, if I do this right, it'll still be out there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But I just kind of like to hang out with
Even-
you guys. Like
Yeah,
it'd
it
be
gives
great
me-
to record more, but
This
it'd just
gives-
be kind of cool just
the
to hang
cool
out.
thing is
like,
for me is
you
like
know,
I've said before, it's for me at least, it gives me a good reason to hang back out with these guys. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
well, I told
gives-
you it's a good way to have cool people come hang out, and I can hang out in my new Crocs set. I'm not ashamed to. Dad bod fashion.
and I love learning. And behind when you come into more or less when you go into the not a duck in any row studios, you kind of can you can ask questions that you wouldn't ask. You know what I mean? I wouldn't ain't like I'd be sitting at your house like, so how long you guys been married? It's just because it's
Yeah,
just stuff.
We want to build an open environment.
Yeah,
that,
this
you
is,
know,
and that's
we
what's
can-
cool, and that's what
Yeah.
when you get behind the microphone, for me at least, I can open up if I can open up any more than I already generally am. You know what
Yeah,
I
you're
mean?
pretty open.
Yeah, I try to. Well,
I've
there's
seen more of you than I ever cared to admit. To be honest with you,
not as much as
I
the
guess
old
that's
waxing
brothers.
job in the old TV show. We won't go there.
so let me ask one final question: what is the most, if you can say it, outrageous thing you've seen at a drag show?
The Skag Drag.
So explain
Up
again
in
what's
Detroit.
Skag Drag. Skag Drag is the
We went to Detroit.
It's called, what's the name of the bar?
I don't want to name the bar.
That bad? Don't.
We
don't.
don't-
No, it wasn't
It's
bad.
not
I think you
bad.
went.
Don't get me
Did you
sued.
go
I ain't
there?
got a lot of money.
When John went,
I don't know. I might have.
I thought you
Was
were there.
mushrooms, mescaline, or just weed?
I don't remember. I don't know what you guys
If it was
were
the
doing.
first two, I probably
even
don't
the
remember.
70s.
Yeah, I probably don't remember if it was one of the first two. Me and John got down like that sometimes. Now you know, Dan.
But it was like there was an upstairs, and then the downstairs was where the show was. Well, when you first walked in, you were upstairs, and they had a pool table, and it
The
was
bar
just,
and everything's there, and
it was just like you'd see a guy come in and he had beard on, and all of a sudden he's putting pantyhose on. It's like,
he's got a
what?
dress on.
Yeah, or he
full
comes
beard.
in, he's got a full beard, he's got a dress on, and he's playing pool. It's like,
He wasn't
Okay.
about 250, 411, was he?
There was a lot of them.
could have been.
Mike, you're a dick.
I had
He
to
was,
throw
he
four
was
No, but
laughing
I
at me
mean-
on that.
But all of them would have beards or goatees or.
It was
Did
just
they,
a
did they wear
different.
makeup with the beard?
no.
So you're saying
So they just had like that shit in a book
those
bag?
they performed.
No, they didn't
no,
perform.
no,
They
no.
didn't perform.
No.
They just naturally walked around like that.
They
Yeah.
just walked into the bar like that, and it was just something new for us because you don't
We've
see
never
that
seen
in
that.
Yeah.
Toledo.
Yeah.
Right.
As long as
So-
I've been
first-
gay,
the
that's the
first-
first time I've ever seen it.
Because most of the
first
time, I'm
human-
guessing they would try to be smooth shaven to look
Right.
like a woman, or you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. What
Maybe
they call it,
just
skag
enjoy the
drag?
clothes.
Well, that's what we used to
call
call
it.
it.
Now they call it
back in the
bearded.
day, but now they call it bearded drag.
Bearded drag. I'm going to
drag.
write that down too.
Bearded drag.
Bearded.
And
Drag.
they'll like put glitter in their beard. Sometimes they'll just paint a beard on with glitter.
So
That-
if I seen someone, so if I now is that
That was up in
appropriate
Detroit.
to
I'd
say
never seen it here.
to somebody. Like
would
if
be
I
called
seen was
beard
like,
jazzled.
are you a bearded
Nice
drag?
pork
I
chop.
mean, would that be appropriate, or is that like a
No, you could
a
say,
bad
are you a
word?
bearded drag queen? There are drag queens that perform only in beards.
Because I've
know,
seen them ones on
Yeah.
TV. You know
They're
what I
called
mean?
bearded
That's-
drag queens. Yep.
So just to share briefly
hello there.
my most outrageous experience at a drag show. I happened to attend a sober young people's event, a large one in Times Square, New York City. And at 2 a.m. on Saturday night, the entertainment for this large sober young people's event was a drag show that featured sober drag queens from all over the country. There was a level of vulgarity that I had not before seen or witnessed. And there was some kind of energy. Now, there's probably 300 sober young people packed in this room at the largest hotel in Times Square in New York City. And we're having the time of, like, I don't think I slept more than 4 hours. I was like 30. I went to see a Broadway show because, you know, you're in New York City, I got to. And I went to see American Idiot because it was the cheapest ticket, the Green Day show. But watching those drag queens all perform, impersonators, drag queens, from all over, like, there was some kind of energy that night that they fed off of. And I'll never forget watching let me be nice let me be careful how I say this, a large performer,
Thick,
thick, curvy, stout performer.
big girl.
I realized at some point that this performer was biologically a female performing as a female, which is a thing too. I didn't know.
They do that
Yes.
too.
In New York City and Times Square, of all places, I discovered this. And this performer revealed a 15-inch strap-on. That's part of their performance.
Get down.
And simulated acts that I hadn't considered ever in my life. And there was something about being tired but hopped up on Red Bull with all these people, having the time of our life that just, like, I just can't explain how shocked but thrilled to be a part of that event. Like, you know, and I think that that's kind of the magic of art and life, really, you know.
See, I'm sheltered.
He's sheltered.
I like to challenge myself now and again. You know, that's so. Well, listen. Thanks for joining the Blue Collar Gospel
Yeah, thanks
Hour.
for coming, guys.
Thank
Being
you
our
for
guests,
having me.
and hopefully we were good enough hosts you'll want to come back and hang out. And
Yes.
So
Would love
again,
to.
Excellent.
It's
You got
been a
any,
great time.
Thanks for being a co-host tonight, Mike.
No problem. Glad you had
And
me.
thanks for introducing me to Gene and David. And I'm looking forward.
I told you I bring nothing but the best.
You bring a lot of something, that's for sure.
I try.
But I think that's how we love each other.
I think I bring the good looks to the show too,
You're
Dan,
an
but no
asshole,
one's
I
going
know
to tell
that.
you that.
All right.
And
Thanks
I
for
can
joining us
change the
tonight,
light
guys.
bulbs.
All
Have a
right,
good Friday,
thank you.
guys.
Good night.
Thanks, guys.